I was adjusting the lights a second ago and now I think I've legit blinded myself. I swear I had this video planned before the She-Hulk trailer dropped. Shut up. If the past 3 or so years have proven anything, it's that Marvel has really burned some Incredible Hulk fans with Professor Hulk, the latest incarnation of Mark Ruffalo's take on the character, who we met in Avengers Endgame and who we'll be seeing again in She-Hulk. Now, I for one have always been an advocate for Professor Hulk as a direction to take this character. In fact, this video started life as a script about Endgame and why it actually characterizes Bruce really well throughout. But rather than just play defense for a controversial narrative choice, again, I'd rather look at a deleted scene, which I feel could have smoothed the transition over better for a lot of people. Because I feel the merits of Professor Hulk are obscured by this missing connective tissue. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go full hyperbole and say that deleting this scene is maybe the worst narrative choice that the MCU has ever made. The scene in question occurs toward the end of Infinity War, a movie where Banner himself is ironically the connective tissue character, flitting between all three of the movie's non-Thanos-centric subplots, and alerting all of the Earth-based heroes to the oncoming threats. He eventually winds up in Wakanda, where his role in the climax is taking out the big, hulky member of the Black Order called Obsidian. In the film proper, Bruce takes Cole out by himself with some good old-fashioned ingenuity. Crowd goes wild, solid hero moment for Bruce, but something's missing. There's some symbolic merit to Bruce doing this on his own, but right now it feels like Bruce's ongoing conflict with Hulk has been left as a very unsatisfyingly loose thread. While I dig into why that is, why don't you like and subscribe for my trouble? I'm gonna go ahead and play what we could have had in its entirety, because it's actually a fairly short clip. Forgive the poor video quality, you'd be shocked how hard this scene is to get a hold of.
We're having some issues here, but if you're gonna appear at any moment now, would be a hell of a good time.
No! Better only want Hulk for fighting!
So what? You like to fight!
Better hate Hulk!
I don't hate you! You're more an Avenger than I am! I love you!
No, you don't! Hulk just wanna live!
I wanna live too, man! I wanna live too!
Me too!
So let's live! We'll live and let live!
Live and let live!
Yes!
Yes!
Okay, I got an idea.
I worked it out.
And now you see what I'm getting at, right? Marvel has a history of removing or reshooting scenes, and for the most part, I'm able to understand the thought process behind every change. But the more I think on it, the more I find cutting this scene in particular plain inexcusable. Not only is it just the most egregious of several cuts throughout several movies that always end up being at Bruce and Hulk's expense, not only does it lose what I feel is a really interesting piece of acting from Ruffalo, but it kneecaps Bruce and Hulk, both in the context of their role in Infinity War as an individual film, and their broader arc as characters. Taking it point by point, I really like what Ruffalo's doing here, because it takes the sort of childlike air Banner has had across Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War and plays it for genuine drama. Bruce and Hulk both really do come off like scared, vulnerable, desperate kids in this exchange, and I like the idea that it takes both of them reaching that place before they synthesize. From a writing perspective, having this be the first time in the entire MCU that we witness Hulk and Banner conversing as separate characters makes it really unique and meaningful. Up to now, we've only ever seen Banner and Hulk talk about each other to other people, and it's always been cynical and resigned on Bruce's end, and childishly resentful on Hulk's. I really love the idea that when the two stop and talk to each other for a second, that gets revealed as all pretense. Underneath, their problem has been something so much more complicated this whole time. Bruce doesn't just hate Hulk, or if he did, he's gotten past it being that simple. He's come to appreciate Hulk as a protector and hero, and maybe even feels a bit of jealousy because Hulk continuously proves useful where Bruce Banner can't. And Hulk himself doesn't just dislike puny Banner for being weak and puny, he's bitter at feeling undervalued, alienated by Banner using him exclusively as an attack dog. Hulk feels dehumanized, like he's not viewed as a person. I just feel like there's something so deep there, that these two characters have spent the preceding decade of movies butting heads and making each other miserable because of this fundamental misunderstanding of what they mean to each other, and how they both make each other feel like the worthless one. It just reframes their whole dynamic and presence as characters so well, and brings them full circle in a really uplifting way. To go from a Bruce Banner who was at one point explicitly suicidal, to Bruce and Hulk coming to a mutual understanding that they just want to live and let live, that's really, really good! Am I crazy? That's such a perfect place to bring this character. And having Professor Hulk be what live and let live looks like for these two characters bolsters his role as the juxtaposing positive agent in Endgame. The member of the team who used to be either the lonely, self-hating sad sack or the tantruming child that everyone walked on eggshells around is now the put-together, self-actualized one, while the rest of the world is clinically depressed. It's a reversal that already works well in Endgame, but this scene would have really earned it. It also just feels right, given what the whole of Infinity War was going for. The alleged justification for cutting it was that this moment was such an emotional high point for Bruce and Hulk that the filmmakers were worried it would undercut the low point that was Thanos winning the movie just a few moments later. I used to be able to understand that reasoning, but now I think keeping this bit in would only serve to strengthen Infinity War's ending gut punch. The movie is already working to set the viewer up emotionally, keep you in the headspace that our heroes will pull a last-second victory. And letting one of the characters we opened the movie with get this smaller individual win would have helped that feeling. It also serves to set up that juxtaposition in Endgame thematically, with Bruce and Hulk being the only ones to leave this movie with what you might consider a happy ending. If you read Bruce and Hulk's dynamic as an example of dissociative identity disorder, and I think most people do, then the birth of Professor Hulk is an example of integration. Bruce and Hulk no longer need to be separate individuals because Bruce has learned to take action and Hulk has learned to be vulnerable. This whole idea that the Hulk personality starts to feel the lack of love from other people, Banner included, as he's been allowed to be in charge of the body for longer periods of time, really fascinates me. Hulk may have only cared about fighting once upon a time, but when we meet him in Thor Ragnarok, he's been in charge for 2 straight years and has clearly developed an affinity for people treating him with some level of respect. He thrives on crowds cheering for the Hulk, he chafes at Thor calling him Banner. Once things cool down with him and Thor, he's desperate to keep him around. That and more suggests that Hulk has come to want real emotional fulfillment, to be seen as more than just the big smashy guy. Now that he can express those needs to Bruce, and now that Bruce himself has willingly adopted the role of a fighter in Hulk's absence, they find that their wants, needs, and the things that they can provide each other actually totally align for the first time. It's actually a really effective character arc across multiple movies. If we hadn't deleted the most vital scene in the entire thing. Kevin, you cut the scene where the arc crests, man! Seriously, it's nuts how one scene can click so much of a character into place. I'd have loved to be a fly on the wall when it was decided that this scene should be cut, and then fly into the eye of Kevin Feige, which he would hopefully take as an omen to keep the scene in. It's just so sad, but also super interesting how cutting 30 seconds can totally disservice a character, actor, and story. Or, I don't know, do you think I'm making too big of a deal out of this? Do you feel the same way I do about this arc and this scene? Let me know in the comments, and like and subscribe if you dig my vibe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future.